Hello everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the London Circle. Today we'll be talking about everything to do with Pakistan, about its regional strife, about the challenges, internal and external, and the potentials for Pakistan to be the kind of force that it probably deserves. I'll be discussing this and many more with Mohammed Abdul Shakur, who is the ex-president of Khidma Foundation. He's in charge of the global arm thereof, as well as Asif Luqman Qazi, the Director of Foreign Relations for Jamaat-e-Islami. Enjoy. It's quite interesting how when we talk about nuclear powers around the world, obviously you have the big states like Russia and China and the United States of America, as well as certain European countries. And then when we talk about other states like Iran or Israel or India, but we often omit to remember that Pakistan is also a nuclear state, and that
A responsible nuclear state.
a responsible nuclear state.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. I believe that is an adequate description. And Pakistan is a country with quite a legacy and quite a heritage, quite a history. Whether it be in terms of the military, but also in terms of the cultural, the terms of it being located in a crossroads of cultures, of identities, of faiths. But there's also no escaping the fact that since its inception in 1947, Pakistan has constantly faced challenges, internal as well as external. But probably today, more than at any other junction, probably because of global politics, probably because we are seeing a reordering of geopolitics around the world, probably because of the Russian-Ukrainian war, probably because of the rise of nationalism in India. Generally speaking, if we were to try to describe Pakistan today, how would that seem? How would that look?
Well, today, if we are talking about today, it doesn't look very optimistic, and there are political disappointments. There is an economic crisis. There are security issues, and of course, whenever the world hears about Pakistan, it's usually not a good news. And but I would say that Pakistan, in its 75 years of history, has faced so many crises, and in various phases of its existence. In the very beginning, there was a crisis of what should be the identity of Pakistan, and it took almost 10 years to decide. And through political dialogue, the various political quarters, various political parties, they ultimately came to a consensus on a unanimously agreed constitution. And I think that was an achievement. And they agreed on some principles of policy. It's called the Objectives Resolution, and it's the preamble of the Constitution of Pakistan, and it gave Pakistan its ideological identity and the basic principles of governance, how the state of Pakistan is going to be governed. So I think the biggest achievement of Pakistan was to have this document, a unanimously agreed constitution. Among Muslim countries, I think it's very rare that we have a unanimously agreed constitution, and we achieved it right in the beginning of our existence. After that, Pakistan has faced several crises. We faced dismemberment of the country. We faced wars in our neighborhood in Afghanistan. And after 9/11, we faced a long wave of terrorism and also natural disasters.
Of course.
We have faced all this, and still I'm optimistic about the resilience of Pakistani nation. Pakistanis are a resilient nation, and it's a big nation. It's the fifth largest country in the world. in terms of population.
And by the way, I mean, you mentioned the resilience of Pakistan and also its people, of course. It's a fact that Pakistanis occupy many countries in the world. Probably wherever you go, you will find a Pakistani community. Definitely here in the UK, there is quite a sizable Pakistani or Pakistani origin community that has a large influence on everyday life, whether it be in terms of politics. We have a number of MPs and House of Lords and also members of the media, you know,
Mayor of London.
the Mayor of London, of course. So the legacy of Pakistan, the reach of Pakistan, I mean, albeit that we are talking today about Pakistan, the country, and the kind of strategic or geopolitical or even natural challenges that it comes across, but the actual fact that its reach is so global is definitely a mark to behold.
Definitely. If you go to USA, Canada, many other places in the Middle East, Pakistani doctors, engineers, and so many skilled workers all around the world, they are present there. And it's a big strength for Pakistan. Now, internally, as Asif said, we do know that there are so many challenges we have to face. But one very strong point is that perhaps among Muslim countries, this is the only nation which is stick with its constitution, and everybody agrees on that. Now, the difficulties are there. We have some difficult relationship with the establishment, and also at the same time, landlords and many other mafias which we have to deal with them. But within society, now there is a trend and resilience to change the situation. And I do hope that the new equilibrium will soon be arrived.
When you mention that kind of landscape, you mention the landowners, you mention the mafias, the cartels of, and you also mentioned the establishment. Were these elements that emerged over time, over the past 75 years, or were they probably cemented by virtue of the nature of the Pakistan that emerged in 1947? How did that come about?
Well, my personal view is that they are cemented. They were there.
They were there even before.
Even before Pakistan, the landlords, the legacy which the Britishers left behind was of the same type of people. And an unfortunate scene was that the movement for Pakistan was not driven within the territory which is now in Pakistan. Yeah. We had Aligarh, from where lot of students and intellectuals were born. Hyderabad, which was another educational town. Many people migrated from there and other areas. So all the good institutions, Muslim good institutions, were in India. In Pakistan, whatever we had, some colleges made by the British government. And then, of course, the military, this most strong institution in Pakistan, which is a plus for Pakistan because our sovereignty depends on military. We have enemies on left, right. But at the same time, of course, when they have power, the absolute power corrupts absolutely. So the system is hung
the
with that.
establishment, the military establishment, does encroach from time to time. In fact, quite often, one could say,
of course,
into political and civilian life. Is that not a challenge?
That's all over the Muslim countries. Like the deep state or the military, it is not content with its own boundaries of the constitution. It always oversteps its constitutional limits, and Pakistan is no exception. This is one of the major political problems of Pakistan. The deep state that includes primarily military and also the judiciary and also the civil service. It interferes in the outside their domain, the constitutional domain. And it interferes in the political decision making. And there is a checkered history. The elections have always, there were question marks on election, that there has been um, pre-electoral and post-electoral engineering, and the desires and ambitions of people, the will of people, that was not respected, despite the fact that we have democratic traditions, old democratic traditions, and the people of Pakistan have always very zealously guarded their fundamental rights. Even in times of military dictatorships, no military dictator has ever been able to usurp the fundamental rights or the freedom of speech. So press was always free, and like people used to assemble even in military rules. They used to organize rallies. So Pakistan has a mix of success and failures. Has its share of
I mean,
failures.
obviously, you can't even start to compare Pakistan with, let's say, the majority of the Arab world, where there is no such institutions of democracy, where there is no virtually elections held, where there is no freedom of press and media and the like. So obviously, from that particular standpoint, you can't really compare like for like. I mean, it's not. But Pakistan finds itself today in a very precarious situation. Now, I would suggest that out of that situation, as challenging as it is, there are many opportunities that Pakistan could use, even in terms of global politics, because of its positioning, because of its location, because of its borders. Because on the borders of Pakistan, you have Afghanistan, which is of immense interest to the entire world and could destabilize the entire region, as we saw over the course of the past 30 years. From the other side, from the other north, we have Iran, which is also a point of contention in global politics. And towards its south, we have India, which is now one of the largest growing populations demographically in the world, largest economies probably in the world, and its reach is formidable.
Sure.
And in the north is China.
And then you have, of course, China. And China particularly is quite interesting vis-a-vis the relationship with Pakistan, because this so-called the New Silk Road comes straight through Pakistan, which would suggest that there is a strategic interest, not just a sort of a contract or economic relationship, but actually a strategic interest in this relationship with China. But how, amidst all of this, how does Pakistan grow? Because, as I said, I mean, amongst these immense challenges, there comes opportunities. But with so much instability, with so much question marks surrounding Pakistan from every corner, how can Pakistan actually grow? How do you see that? What's the opportunities?
There are challenges, there is no doubt. There are geopolitical challenges. Pakistan has always struggled to balance its relations between United States and China. Although they both have conflicting interests in the region, but at the same time, United States has remained its largest trading partner and economic partner, and also in terms of military equipment. United States is the biggest provider of military equipment to Pakistan. But at the same time, relations with China are like the stabilizing factor in the region, because, as you said, Pakistan relies on China strategically, and it has always, across party lines, all parties have respected these relations, and all political parties, the military and the deep state and the people of Pakistan, they want to strengthen our relations with China. And in the context of One Belt, One Road, it gave Pakistan a fresh air of optimism,
Leverage.
leverage and optimism. CPEC was the most important international component of One Belt, One Road. But what CPEC could do is provide a platform. The rest was up to Pakistani government to make a road show out of it and to woo private businesses from around the world to have industrial zones in Pakistan and to promote business. Obviously, governments can do up to an extent. A foreign government can do up to an extent. The rest was up to Pakistani government to make the best out of it. Unfortunately, successive Pakistani governments did not face up to this challenge, and that air of optimism is no more there. Now, I think our challenge is the foremost challenge is to address our political crisis. Because if there is political stability, then economic stability will follow.
Before I come to the political crisis, I'd like to ask about the constitution. You mentioned that the constitution cemented Pakistan's ideology and the identity of Pakistan, the word that's used. What identity is that? If I was to ask, what's the identity stipulated by virtue of the constitution?
Well, the Constitution had made a very positive role, even for the forces which are hostile to our political system. I mean, we had two martial laws in the past. After this Constitution was accepted by Pakistani Parliament, they did not dare to suspend the Constitution or change the Constitution.
Even despite the martial laws?
But despite martial law. So we survived that, and the nation is stick with that. That is one thing very positive for Pakistanis. And I think even in future, I mean, we may face many challenges, but this one point will be common among Pakistanis, that we have to follow the Constitution and not to abrogate that or make any abrupt cancellation of that. So this is the strength for us. But on the other hand, what you were saying, the things which we are facing as China and the Western powers, the relationship is very unique. China is not only economically important for us, even for our safety. China's backing is very important because we are facing India on that end. And of course, India and China. So we have a very unique position in which China and Pakistani relationship goes hand by hand. But at the same time, our relationship with the West, I mean, we have millions of people living in Europe, in England, in America. And of course, our education system is in English, and our so many ties are there. So to keep the balance between this relationship is a challenge. And of course, Pakistan is trying to make that balance. Now, our internal problems, as Asif said, are fundamentally important. If we can overcome the political crisis within Pakistan, we are in a much better position to play our role.
Of course. Now, okay, so let's come to the internal crisis. I mean, at this moment of time, the big story that everyone is watching is the story of Imran Khan. But Imran Khan, I feel, is an example or a symptom of a wider political strife internally. Now, whether that's because of the establishment, because of the role of the military, whether it's because of the, as you put it, the landowners and the gangs, the cartels, I'm not entirely sure. How would you come to describe this internal political strife that not only for now, but generally speaking, that we hear of, time and time again, every few years, sometimes every few months?
Yes, military intervention has always been there. There is no doubt Imran Khan is very popular at the moment. But the way he gained this popularity, there is a background to to it as well. The way he rose to prominence and to political prominence and to power is not also not like devoid of military intervention. The way so many people joined him in the beginning in 2013 and 14, and the way he got all these media attention, and the way like they claim to be on one page with him. So there is history to Imran Khan rising to prominence as well. And it's not political intervention is part of it. So again, when he was overthrown, uh, again there is some kind of engineering behind it, and the deep state is involved in it. Now, the way out of it, what we suggest is that everybody respect the constitutional limit which are prescribed for political parties, for military, for judiciary. All state organs and political parties and media, they have to respect their constitutional limits. And the way out of it is to end this polarization and end this ever-increasing conflict, and adopting an approach of coming to terms with each other, rising above personal agendas and putting national agenda first and foremost, and go according to the constitution, the way constitution, and the constitutional way out of it is elections. There has to be fresh elections. The only thing that the difference between the government and the opposition at the moment are a few months. Like there, some want it early before June, and according to the tenure, it has to be in October or something. So there are 4 months approximately.
But I have to say, I mean, notwithstanding anything that you've just said, Imran Khan comes across as a very impressive, very charismatic political leader. The things that he says resonate, I'm pretty sure, with swathes of particularly young Pakistanis, as well as people outside of Pakistan who are interested in in that particular region's politics. So whilst there might have been certain assistant elements to his rise, but he's certainly someone who commands respect, let's just say, when he comes across in the public arena. But it's quite interesting how the establishment seems to be undecided. I mean, from our perspective here in the UK, for instance, seems to be undecided as to Imran Khan, whether to give him the limelight and to give him, that kind of platform, or whether to try to curtail his progress and try to eliminate his attempts to rise. So what is the situation in regards with Imran Khan specifically?
Well, leaving beside the political personalities,
Yes.
basically the struggle is between the space which politicians want from the military to govern Pakistan, since Ayub Khan, and then Ziaul Haq, and then Pervez Musharraf, and then the power which establishment is holding now. And they have been making so many abrupt changes in their attitudes and who should govern Pakistan, I mean, by phase. Otherwise, they are behind. Imran may become a symbol of resistance against those forces who are not willing to let political system strive. If it comes there, whatever the elections results are there, my feeling is that that should be given the space. If it does not happen, we may have another crisis in which we have to go. But on the other hand, my feeling is that the political parties, instead of fighting among them, should be united on one agenda, that we have to create a space for politicians to govern this system. And agreeing on such agenda would make our future much safer than what conflicts are going on right now. Who can dare to come forward and make this dangerous situation into a hope is really something. Imran is frustrated at this time point. And of course, the governing parties are frustrated as well. So we have to come up with some kind of, agreement among the forces which are running the whole show.
Let's talk about the Jamaat-e-Islami. The Jamaat-e-Islami is a crucial component of Pakistan society and Pakistan politics. Jamaat-e-Islami have been around for a very long time, even before the establishment of Pakistan. And its role in public life is undeniable. Its impact on Pakistani politics is variably quite significant. I happen to recall, and you'll correct me, that Jamaat-e-Islami were part of governing coalitions in the past. And there were many a time when Jamaat-e-Islami were certainly the second most powerful political element. I'm not entirely sure what the situation is now. Where does Jamaat-e-Islami find itself today?
Well, Jamaat-e-Islami has several aspects of its struggle and its movement. Elections are one part of it. Jamaat-e-Islami is an intellectual movement. It is also a reform movement, a societal reform movement. It is a welfare. It has a welfare aspect to its struggle as well. Charity aspect to it as well, and it has an educational agenda as well. So there are several aspects of Jamaat-e-Islami's struggle, and it has played a very important role right from the beginning. In fact, Pakistan, the way Pakistan got its identity and its country, Islamic identity, and its the Islamic injunctions in the constitution was primarily because of Jamaat-e-Islami's struggle, because it rallied the whole nation behind the objectives for which Pakistan was established. And also after that, Jamaat-e-Islami has been in limelight and in the forefront for fundamental rights, for the supremacy of constitution, and for the rights of the people of Pakistan. And we have had opportunities of being part of provincial governments, the regional governments, sometimes in the national governments as well as a coalition partner. From 2002 to 2007, Jamaat was part of an alliance, the Islamic Parties Alliance, which was the second largest group in the parliament. And it formed in two provinces, it formed the provincial governments. Parties like Pakistan are an asset to the nation because of several reasons. Number one, it is the only political party which has an internal democratic structure and which holds regular elections for all positions. It is perhaps the only party in Pakistan on whose leadership and the integrity of whose leader, there is no question mark. There are no corruption charges on Jamaat's leadership. And the welfare services that it has provided in several catastrophes, they are well recognized and respected beyond Pakistan's boundaries.
And a crucial part of resolving those humanitarian crises.
Crucial part, and world bodies have recognized the role of its welfare. So Jamaat-e-Islami enjoys respect. Even people who vote for Imran Khan or people who vote for Nawaz Sharif, if you ask them what is your second choice, the second choice will always be Jamaat-e-Islami. So they don't have a negative vote. We have had challenges in getting in the number of seats, probably because our leadership is from the middle class. And the political system is such that it is like overshadowed by the feudal lords. And since we have all the middle class leadership, we face challenges. But there have been moments of success. For example, lately, we won Karachi. We emerged as the largest party in Karachi, which is the largest city of Pakistan, in the local bodies elections. And we have been successful in rallying public support in parts of Balochistan as well. And we have our own pockets in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, which borders Afghanistan. We have our own pockets in that province as well. So we are hopeful that we will do better in the next elections. We don't make very tall claims, but over the medium term, I'm quite optimistic that there are so many opportunities for Jamaat-e-Islami.
How easy or otherwise is it for an Islamic party to operate within a country that clearly identifies itself alongside Islam? You know, Pakistan identifies itself as a Muslim country and a Muslim nation. That was the whole pillar of its founding, that it was Muslim. How easy is it, or how difficult is it for an Islamic party to actually operate and gain political ground within a country that clearly has no problem with the Muslim identity?
Yes, that may be an opportunity, and that may be a challenge as well. Because why Muslim Brotherhood was successful in Egypt? Because Islam's role in politics was curtailed for so long, and there were ambitions of people which were...
With all due respect, but Egypt doesn't identify itself as Muslim essentially to the core like Pakistan.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That it may have given an opportunity, because the people, the government does not identify,
Exactly.
the state does not identify.
It covered a vacuum.
Yeah, it created a vacuum.
Correct.
The people all over the Muslim world, they identify themselves with Islam. There are dictatorships which tries and attempts to curtail it and to limit it. So because in Pakistan, it was decided right in the beginning that it will be an Islamic state. So perhaps that's no more an issue. Islam is no more an issue. The issue now is governance and how we stabilize the country economically, politically, and security-wise. These are our challenges. Islam is no more
a contentious issue.
A contentious issue.
Yes.
Forwarding the viewpoint which Brother Asif has said, mashallah, and very rightly, the issue which we are facing is showing people the leadership which is capable of solving the economic, political, and other issues of Pakistan. We have successes and we have failures. Some of the problems which we are facing is that being a party of middle-class people, we don't have many resources with us.
By the way, why is that?
I'll tell you that.
The issue of middle class. I mean, that's interesting.
The middle class issue is that in Pakistan, the landlords and the mill owners, and they have occupied this space with their many resources with them. And what happens is that when one party leaves the power, all of them go to another party which they think is going to be in the power in future. So basically, any of them, I'm not naming any personality, but whosoever has to come to power, they will invite all those corrupt people with them and let them go. Jamaat-e-Islami tries to stay away from this kind of blackmailing and try to keep their members as a leader for the elections and others. But this is not the only reason for the failure. Basically, again, focusing less on ideological issues, more on problem solving, as in Karachi we have seen it, that the leadership of Jamaat in Karachi focused on issues which Karachi was facing: electric, census, the big mafia which was holding land and not giving the rights to people. So the leadership took this challenge and merged into that. Now we have to open the door for middle class people to come into Jamaat. All those who have a better and a clean background in certain other areas, we have to be open for them and focusing on the political issues. I think Jamaat can miraculously make a big change in future if we adopt all those policies.
Tell me about your organization. You're the former president of Khidmat. And I'm guessing that with the prevalence of poverty, deprivation, the lack of basic services in many, many areas throughout Pakistan, that your work is immense. I mean, the efforts that you need in order to cater for the need that is there must be quite significant. When did the Khidmat first start?
Well, Khidmat started in 1993, but it merged in earthquake in 2005. And our first president from Karachi, Nematullah Khan, who was the mayor of Karachi, and he did a wonderful work there. So he took the lead, and especially during the earthquake, so Al-Khidmat started to be recognized in the field. Then later on, many other changes came there, and of course, organizational structure and workers training and volunteers movement, all that started in 2012 and 13. Then came a big flood in Pakistan, coronavirus, we faced that, and then a huge flood which came just last year. Now, Al-Khidmat has a big strength. There are so many other organizations doing good work, and we appreciate all of them. But the workers' base which Al-Khidmat has, no other group has that. We had 60,000 workers on the ground which were doing welfare work in flood areas. And all those, internationally, we had 90 organizations who cooperated with us to work in Pakistan. And we are working in health, we are working in education, we are working in clean water, we are working in prisons. We are working to give interest-free loans to those who cannot get job and they want to establish things. We are working with orphans. So Alhamdulillah, well recognized, and especially in flood situation, international community gave us a big support. Obama Foundation put our name right at the top.
I'm sure that's a good thing. Or bad
Yeah.
thing, but
even Jemima.
Jemima
endorsed Al-Khidmat.
Definitely. And
that was despite Imran, I'm sure.
The UN Secretary General, when he came to Pakistan, I'm the only person to meet him among the organizations, because this is what they recognize, that Al-Khidmat is working on the ground. What I say is that Alhamdulillah, and this is blessing of Allah, that we had extensive program of developing our workforce on the ground to respond as quickly as possible. See, when the earthquake in Turkey was there on 6th of March, on 8th, I was in Istanbul. And our team of 47 people followed me within next couple of hours. And with AFAD, which is the organization holding the operations in earthquake areas, Alhamdulillah, this team was part of them for search and rescue. So this is the blessing of Allah, that we had such a good team on ground. Now we are trying to move into international arena, and we would like to get some space in UN agencies as well, and with other governments, because in flood area, especially those who lost their homes and who lost their crops and everything else, alhamdulillah, we can deliver a lot.
Don't you feel that, this immense work, you're almost operating as a government? You're covering the very same ground.
Semi-government.
That, yeah, you're actually doing the job of a government.
That's
in a
true.
way.
Sometimes even the job that even the government cannot do, because the government has a slow process, and
Bureaucracy and red tape
bureaucracy
and
and private sector can quickly reach to the people and provide relief at the doorstep right away. So that is the strength of Al Khidmat. It has foot soldiers, it has field workers.
When you say 60,000, that's an immense figure. That's an
true.
immense figure.
Yes, and no other organization has this strength. They might have money. Sometimes there are organizations who had more money than Al Khidmat, but they were not able to disburse that money to reach to the doorstep of, and that is the primary, and of course the integrity and transparency of Al Khidmat.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about. I want to talk about three issues essentially: India, Kashmir, and Afghanistan. What does Jamaat-e-Islami, what's its stand in regards with India as a neighbor, as a neighboring country, Kashmir, where India has occupied swathes of Kashmir and almost controls Kashmir? And this begs a question of exactly what Pakistan's strategic vision is regarding Kashmir. And then, obviously, Afghanistan and the return of Taliban to govern Afghanistan. So all of this, how do you see this?
Well, as far as Jamaat-e-Islami is concerned, we would like to have good relations with all our neighbors, and including India. More so because we are an Islamic movement, and for an Islamic movement, dawah is also a major part of its struggle, and we cannot mark one nation state as the enemy state, because our message is for all the humanity, and we cannot exclude any geographical region or any country from this message. This is part of our faith, that we are bound to spread this message, to give this message to all of humanity with sincerity and with the sentiments of their well-being. So no nation state is an enemy state. There are issues, there are conflicts, and the major issue is that Kashmir, according to the formula of the partition of India and Pakistan subcontinent, all the Muslim majority areas were supposed to be part of Pakistan. And India occupied it by force. And then it was India that went to United Nations, and United Nations passed a resolution. And there are several resolutions that Kashmir is a disputed territory, and its ultimate decision is to be made by the people of Kashmir through an impartial plebiscite under United Nations. So that is the legal status of Kashmir, and we want this conflict to be resolved according to UN resolutions. That is the major contention.
Honestly, do you think that's going to happen? Pursuing something is fine.
There is a dispute. There is a dispute that exists. Now, how to resolve it? We can invite them. Let's talk. We should accept that there is outstanding dispute between us, and we need to address it. We cannot brush it under the carpet. And the primary party are Kashmiri people. It's not Pakistan, it's not India. If Kashmiri people are not willing to accept themselves as Indian citizens, I'm nobody and Indians are nobody to force them to accept it. So it will not be resolved by invoking an article from the Indian Constitution, because there are UN resolutions, and more important, the Kashmiri people, it is to be resolved according to the wishes of the Kashmiri people.
How does that particular stand, when you explain it like you've just done, how does that sit with the people of Pakistan? Do they accept this position? Do they espouse this position? Do they commend this position?
I guess this is the only issue on which Pakistanis are on one page. All of Pakistan,
All political factions,
all
the establishment,
factions,
the
even
civil
the
society.
minorities and the army and the civil services and the political parties and a common person.
Which
So
then
they
begs the question why there
now,
is no
now
movement.
let me tell you. The issue is that when you are facing a nation like India, of course, we cannot ignore the strength of India as well. And we should not ignore the weaknesses of our system in Pakistan. We cannot leave this issue behind and have relationship with India. No, not at all. But of course, to make a good resolution, we need to develop Pakistan in a position, in a strength position, so that we are in a better position to bargain and talk with India. Right now, honestly, we need to have our home straightened out first. But because we have problems inside, it's not possible that we ignore the issue of Kashmir. Kashmir will remain the top priority, not for Jamaat-e-Islami only, for whole Pakistan, virtually in the common man on the street and in common person in schools and teachers and all those.
Afghanistan. I mean, the role of Pakistan in Afghanistan since the Soviet occupation, and then the struggle of the Afghani people through the Afghani jihad, and then the time after that where there was a civil conflict within Afghani factions. And then obviously we had 2001 and 9/11, and then we had the American occupation. And then obviously 20 years on, we had the surrender of the Americans to the Taliban once more. How do you see Afghanistan vis-a-vis Pakistan, Pakistani politics, the establishment, the securitization of Afghanistan? Obviously the intelligence, the Pakistani intelligence have a big role in Pakistan, old as well as recent. So what's the situation there? But also, what's the vision of the Jamaat-e-Islami?
On Afghanistan, our basic stance is that the future of Afghanistan is up to the Afghani people. They have to decide how their country is going to be run. And Pakistani government or political parties or people of Pakistan, they can facilitate in a way, they can facilitate a dialogue, but ultimately it's up to the Afghani people to govern. Pakistan and Afghanistan are so interdependent that I can hardly imagine two other countries in the world that are so interdependent in terms of security, economically, and in terms of our people.
Tribal people extend over the borders and
Yeah.
spill over and the such.
Yes, the same people live on both sides of the borders. They speak the same language, they have the same culture, they have the same faith. So it is not possible that there is peace in Afghanistan and there is war in Pakistan and there is war in Afghanistan. It is not. If Afghanistan is at war, there is violence in Afghanistan, it will have spillovers in Pakistan and the other way around. So it is in the interest of both the countries to address the issues. As far as Taliban are concerned, at the moment, I think there is no alternative. Practically, there is no alternative to Taliban government. The West has tried to woo the Northern Alliance, but it was not workable. And for the first time in the last 40 years, Afghanistan, the whole of Afghanistan is under one government. Of course, there are issues. There are issues of women rights. There are issues of women education.
Education, yes.
And there is a desire of international community that it should be a broad-based government, an all-inclusive government. Although I'm not sure if every country in the world has
Of course.
an inclusive government, because it's always one party that comes to power and all the others are excluded. And there is some people in government, others are in opposition.
Are there direct contacts between Jamaat-e-Islami and the Taliban government?
Yes, there are.
And I believe recently there was a delegation from Jamaat-e-Islami that actually visited Kabul.
There were several delegations. Several delegations visited. Political leadership went there. We provided relief and assistance, humanitarian relief. And delegations of academics and intellectuals, they went in large numbers to Afghanistan to discuss their issues with their Afghan counterparts.
Were they constructive visits? Were they positive visits? Were they received well by the Taliban?
I guess he can explain that much better. But I think, yes, there were good gestures on both sides. But let me, and after endorsing what Brother Asif has said, put another perspective of Afghan situation. Afghans have almost 3 generations has gone through these crises, bombs and war and all those things. And I don't think hardly any family who had not suffered one or another person among their setup. Now, once again, as he said, the whole country is under one umbrella and one government. This is after a long time this has happened. The world should wait for some time. The reactionary situation, if you are going through wars and all those things, and then you expect them all together to be as rational as a person living in New York or London and others should
That's
be.
Unreasonable.
It's very unreasonable. They should get some time to settle down with the situation in which they are and behave like normal persons can be. So if word is not giving them that time space, I mean, you have spent 20 years to suppress them and kill them, and now you are not giving them 10 years to come back and make some realities on the ground. This is one important issue which people should always realize. Secondly, as they are martial nation, and I'm sure now the word is changing and you cannot stop the changes coming into the system. That has to come there. We need to support them in education, in health, in other areas. And just giving them that kind of support in which they really feel that somebody is sympathetic with them is more important than sending them the advices that do this, and do this. Of course, we are not endorsing their policies of not educating the girls or so many other policies. So we have the differences. But keeping all
you
those
made
differences.
that clear during the visits? You made that clear that you were...
Yeah, definitely. Our leadership has conveyed them our feelings. And even on certain subjects, we have openly said it in press and other areas as well. But keeping that the realities are there, so we have to be patient and, understanding the situation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
MashaAllah.
It's a pleasure.
Brilliant. I've learned so much.